Hare Krishna, everyone.
Hare Krishna Mataji.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna Mataji.
Hare Krishna, Mataji.
Hare Krishna. So, how are you all today? I hope you're good. Waiting for the third part of Yuddhakand? Yes? Yeah. Okay, can you? Yes, that's good. Excellent. I'm excited too. Yeah. So, quickly, what we'll do is we will first chant our prayers and then continue with our story of Yuddhakand. Okay, let me just quickly share the screen. Okay, just a second. Remember all the rules. Yeah, keep your audio muted and also video closed. Yeah. Just a minute. Okay, I'm just trying to share the screen now with you all. Yes. Can we see that? Yes. Yes. All right. Preeti, can we see that? Are you able to see it?
Yes, you can see it.
Okay, excellent. So today we have Shaurya with us who will be chanting the opening prayers. Yes, and Shaurya has been attending class since he was 5 years old and now he's 13. So that's a long time, yes, Shaurya? Okay, I will put my,
ॐ ज्ञानतिमिरन्धस्य ज्ञानञ्जनशलाकया चक्षुरुन्मिलितं येन तस्मै श्रीगुरवे नमः। श्रीचैतन्यमनोभीष्टं स्थापितं येन भूतले स्वयं रूप कदा मह्यं ददाति स्वपदान्तिकम्। वन्देऽहं श्रीगुरु श्रीयुतपदकमलं श्रीगुरून् वैष्णवांश्च श्रीरूपं साग्रजातां सागना रघुनाथान्वितं तं सजीवं साधवेतं सावधूतं परिजनसहितं कृष्णचैतन्यदेवं श्रीराधा कृष्णपादान् सगना ललिता श्रीविशाखान्वितांश्च नमो विष्णुपादाय कृष्णपृष्ठाय भूतले श्रीमते भक्तिवेदान्त स्वामिनिति नामिने नमस्ते सरस्वती देवे गौरवाणी प्रचारिणे निर्विशेष शून्यवादी पाश्चात्यदेशतारिणे हे कृष्ण करुणा सिन्धो दीनबन्धो जगत्पते गोपेश गोपिकान्त राधाकान्त नमोऽस्तुते तप्त कंचना रंगी राधे वृंदावनेश्वरी विषभानुसुते देवी प्रणमामि हरे प्रिय जय श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैत गदाधर श्रीवासादि गौर भक्तवृंद हरे कृष्णा कृष्ण कृष्ण हरे 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 राम 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 हरे हरे.
Thank you, Shaurya. Thank you very much. And stop sharing. All right. So now we get back to our Ramayana. And I'm so excited. So, can someone tell me, one person tell me which Rakshas did we kill in the previous class? I'll give you a hint.
Ma'am, can I tell?
Yes, sure.
Kumbhakaran.
Kumbhakarna, yes. And can someone else tell me who he was?
Ma'am, can I tell?
Yes, you can. Was he?
He was the Ravana's brother.
Yes, absolutely right. So now let's move on to the next. Yes? All right. Let me just quickly, yes, share the screen. And Preeti Mataji will tell me whether we can all see the screen.
Yes, we can see the screen.
Excellent. So we're ready to go. Let's start. Yes, we have a long way to go today. So last week, what did we see? We saw the fatal Brahmastra, which killed Kumbhakarna. Yes? And everybody rejoiced and everybody was dancing. Hanuman was elated, Sugriv was elated, and all the monkeys were dancing. Yes? And Ram and Lakshman also felt very happy. Now, inside the palace, what happens? Ravana is very, very sad because his brother has died, and also he had a lot of hope from Kumbhakarna. So he was very sad. So Indrajit is Ravan's son. So we understand. We also heard how Hanuman had killed Aksh, Ravan's one son. So Indrajit was his elder one. His actual name is Meghnad, but he is also named Indrajit because he won the battle and conquered Lord Indra. So now Indrajit, he consoled Ravan, his father, and he vowed, he said that he would go and kill Ram and Lakshman. So Ravan felt very heartened and said, let's go to the battle, and blessed him. So now the prince, Indrajit, he donned his penetrable armor, he mounted his great chariot, which was drawn by tigers, and he went out followed by Rakshasas. Now Ravan, he stood up on his palace and he saw how Indrajit had gone and how he was followed by all the Rakshas. Now, as all the Rakshasas reached the battlefield, Indrajit, he got down from his chariot and he recited Vedic mantras and he worshipped Agni. And he poured oblations into the fire. He made offerings of lances, spears, swords, and some traditional wood, grass. And then he caught a huge goat and offered it in the sacrifice. So then immediately Agni Dev appeared and accepted his sacrifice, accepted the offerings. And then Indrajit climbed back onto his chariot. Now he sat in meditation and he invoked the Brahmastra. Now, having invoked the Brahmastra, he also, with his mystic power, he became invisible. So then he started giving orders to all the Rakshasas, and they all went forward and they started attacking the Vanar army. So now the Vanaras were hurling boulders and trees at Indrajit, but he would just tear it apart, and also being invisible, it was difficult for the monkeys. So he very swiftly he moved around invisibly and he started fighting with all the big warriors. So he one after the other, he pierced Neel, he pierced Jambavan, Sugriv, Angad, Rishab, Dvivida, and many other monkey heroes. And he rendered them all virtually unconscious. And everybody was very, very surprised at Indrajit's strength. So Hanuman he was remaining standing. So he looked around the scene, and even Ram and Lakshman, they were looking at the powerful Indrajit, and they were also looking at the other powerful Vanar commanders, and they were wondering what's happening. And then what did Indrajit do? Indrajit, he took up his arrow, which he had chanted the Brahmastra for, and he fired it. Now, Ram knew that no one in the universe could stop the Brahmastra. The only way of stopping the Brahmastra was to invoke another Brahmastra. But he knew that it would be very dangerous having another Brahmastra because it could destroy the entire cosmos. And there would be millions of innocent creatures who would die. And Ram did not want this to happen. So he and Lakshman started fighting with Indrajit with powerful arrows, but not invoking the Brahmastra, even though knowing that there was no other way of doing it. Now, the Indrajit again and again was reciting incantations and he was firing the Brahmastra. Now, both the princes, Ram and Lakshman, were completely covered by Indrajit's arrows. And they both were bleeding and they fell to the ground and they dropped their bows and they became unconscious. And Indrajit sent up a cry of victory. He considered that Ram and Lakshman were dead and the battle was won. So he immediately went back to Lanka and told Ravan that now victory is ours. I have killed Ram and Lakshman. Now Hanuman was still there standing in the battlefield and he looked at Ram and Lakshman and all the other people and he started crying. He knelt by the side of Ram and Lakshman and he saw the unconscious brothers. He started crying. So immediately Vibhishan came, kept his hand on Hanuman's shoulder and said that don't be so sad. Both Ram and Lakshman are not killed. You see, they still have their luster in their bodies. Definitely, Ram is the creator himself. Nobody can destroy, nobody can kill him. So don't worry, they will rise up again. So Hanuman immediately, he embraced Vibhishan. Then as Vibhishan was searching around, he saw Jamvan was hurt. But he was alive. So Jamvan immediately called Vibhishan and he asked him, where is Hanuman? So Vibhishan was a little surprised because Jamvan would have asked, how is Ram? How is Lakshman? But Jamvan was asking, where is Hanuman? Call Hanuman. Only he can help. Only he can save this battle. So then Hanuman came and Jamvan told Hanuman that, you must fly all the way north towards the Himalayas. And only you can save the army because only you possess the power to fly. So you must go there at once and you must fetch these celestial herbs. Jaman explained that there was a mountain standing near Mount Kailash on which 4 precious herbs grew, and it was placed there by the Devatas themselves. So Jaman described 4 plants. First, there is a Sanjeeva Karani, capable of bringing a dead person back to life. Then you will find the Vishalya Karani, which can completely heal all weapon wounds. Then there are 2 other herbs are Sandhini and Suvarna Karani, which together can restore a broken body and bring it back to its normal, healthy state. So they all grow together on top of this mountain. Immediately go and bring that mountain here. So Hanuman immediately stood up. He went, bounded across to Trikuta mountain, stood on it, and he leapt. And as usual, like we all know, the whole mountain started shaking. And all the Rakshasas thought that there's going to be an earthquake. So he started flying very fast. And who helped him fly even faster? His father, Vayudev. So he quickly, very fast, he reached. As Hanuman came closer, he saw this golden Rishab mountain where the Devatas lived with their big, big palaces. So he passed Rishab mountain and he reached he saw Mount Kailash in the distance. So between Rishabh mountain and Mount Kailash, Hanuman saw the mountain on which the celestial herbs grew. Now Hanuman also had a boon that he can heal anyone, and he has knowledge of all medicines. So Hanuman came down on the mountain and he started searching for the four celestial herbs which Jamban had told him. But he could not find them. He looked everywhere and he started thinking, what's going to happen to Ram? What's going to happen to Ram and Lakshman? So then what had happened was these herbs, they were scared and they hid themselves. They started concealing themselves under the leaves, under the stones. All the herbs were hiding. They were not revealing themselves to Hanuman because those herbs were meant only for the Devatas. So now Hanuman got very angry and said, "Oh Lord of this mountain, you are not showing any compassion to Lakshman and Ram. They are the lords of the universe. So now see what I do to you." So what did he do? He tore away the shining peak and he said, "I'm not going to return these herbs now." And he tore away the peak from the mountain and he lifted it. He put his hands and broke it off and he lifted it above his head. And then again he sprang up into the air and started flying towards Lanka. Now, as again, like before, Vayudev again helped him, and very quickly he reached Trikuta again, came down and set the herbs, this mountain of herbs down. Then, taking a few handful of herbs, Vibhishan, he quickly went and to Ram and Lakshman, and both Ram and Lakshman were hardly breathing. But as soon as they started smelling these herbs, they quickly came back to life and they stood up and they hugged Hanuman. And then quickly Sugriv, he called Sushena. Sushena was a monkey expert in healing. He was like a doctor. So he used all the herbs which Hanuman brought, and Sushena healed the arrow wounds of Ram and Lakshman. And quickly the wounds healed and it closed. Then what did they do? They started swiftly moving around all the hurt soldiers of the Vanara army, and everyone were given this crushed herbs, and they all became healed. And even those who were killed by the Rakshasas, all those Vanars who were killed by Rakshasas and their body was completely intact, they were also brought back to life. But they would have this, so they were looking also for Rakshasas. They said that if this, a doctor never discriminates, right? So he said, if there are Rakshasas, we will give it to Rakshasas also, and they can come, they will also become alive. But there were no demons left on the battlefield. Why? Because Ravan had ordered that all the Rakshasas who had died should be tossed into the ocean, because he did not want the monkeys to see the numbers of Rakshasas dead and become very happy and strong just mentally. So there were no Rakshasas, so this herb could not be given to them. Now then, night was drawing to a close. It was slowly becoming sunset. And Sugriv, he consulted Ram and Lakshman and said that let's attack Lanka before the Rakshasas are aware of our situation. So quickly, the monkeys started bringing torches and moved torches with fire, right? Not our battery torches nowadays. And they started attacking, and the Rakshasas became very, very scared. Now Ravan had already, he thought that Ram and Lakshman had died, so he went off to sleep. He woke up and he decided, and he's like, what's happening? Then they told him that Ram and Lakshman are alive. And Ravan couldn't believe himself. And Indrajit also couldn't believe himself. So then he sent out two Rakshasas, Kumbh and Nikumbh. They were also killed by the big monkey warriors. Then now Indrajit came out again, and he came and he stood in front of Ram and Lakshman. He's saying, today definitely I'm going to kill you both. Now what did Indrajit do? He played a trick. With his mystic power, he created an illusory form of Sita. Like Ravan had with magic created just the head of Ram, Now, Indrajit created the full body of Sita and he brought this illusory image out in his chariot. So Hanuman looked up and he saw this beautiful woman in this demon's grasp, but she was very sorrowful and she was clad in a single garment and she was covered with dust, mud. So he looked keenly and he recognized that it was Sita. And he was surprised. He said, "Oh my, oh Maya, Sita Maya, he's brought her out. Is he going to harm her?" So what did Indrajit start doing? He took out his sword and started cutting her and wounding this illusory Sita. And everybody, all the monkeys were completely devastated, saying, "What's he doing?" Then Indrajit, what did he do? He took out he again grabbed Sita by the hair with the sword. He cut her in half. And she started screaming. She said, "Oh Ram, oh Ram." And he cut her in two parts and he threw her out of the chariot and said, "See, and now I have killed Sita. All your efforts to recover her is gone. So fight on if you must, but you will never get Sita." Now, looking at this, now immediately what he did was he went in his chariot to Nikumbala. Now he went there because he was worshipping the powerful Kalima, and he was making offerings of blood. So the demon knew that the final battle was near, and he had been granted once a boon by Lord Brahma that if he performed the ritual at Nikumbala to Kalima, he will become invincible in battle and his enemy will be defeated. So he realized that the time had come for this and he could do it only once. And he went off. Now, Brahma had also given Indrajit another boon that no ordinary person can just come, even a great warrior cannot just come and kill you. A person who has not slept for 14 years and who's a brahmachari, who's a celibate for 14 years, that is, he is not with his wife, he is just by himself, only such a person can kill you. So, who is that person? Obviously, it's Lakshman because he had taken a vow that he will not sleep the full time he is in the forest. He will guard Ram and Sita in the night. And he was a celibate because he had left his wife in Ayodhya. So now that was the reason why Lakshman was the only person who can kill Indrajit. So now Indrajit went off to do his sacrifice to Kalima. Now in the battlefield, Ram was devastated. He saw that Sita is killed and he said, "How can I now? What is the use? How can I live on? What is the use of this?" And Lakshman told him that it's not, it's not just that. Let's get up and take revenge. Even if Sita has been killed, how dare she be killed? She was kidnapped. She's the princess of Ayodhya. She's in our clan. She was kidnapped and she was killed, so we must take revenge. So immediately Ram got up and he, in fury, and said, "I will not spare Indrajit." Then Vibhishan comes and says that, "Look, there's no possibility that Ravan would allow Indrajit to kill Sita because Ravan is very lusty and he will not give up Sita. He wants to marry her. He will just not give her up." So, and then he says that Indrajit definitely has gone to Nikumbala to do the sacrifice. He has to be stopped, otherwise there is no way of winning this battle. And Lakshman is the only one who can kill him because of the boon of Brahma. So he tells Ram about how Indrajit can be killed by a person who has not slept for 14 years and who is a celibate. Now Lakshman goes immediately with a few Vanaras to where Nikumbala is, and there the Rakshasas don't expect the Vanars. So there's a big fight and Lakshman starts fighting Indrajit. Now there is a huge battle. Indrajit flies up in the sky, he becomes invisible, but Lakshman himself is a great warrior. So what does he do? He first destroys Indrajit's chariot. First, he kills all the tigers pulling the chariot. Then he destroys the chariot. Then Indrajit has to come down. Then Lakshman, he fires an arrow called a Shabdabed. So this arrow, when the mantras are chanted, will find the target even if it is invisible. So he does that. Then Indrajit comes, he appears, and there's a huge fight. And then they keep on fighting furiously. Thousands and thousands of arrows speed past, and there is a huge struggle. Then the Rakshas prince rises up swiftly in the air, and he flies and he shoots arrows. And Lakshman from down, he shoots his arrows, and then they start fighting with the celestial weapons. So Indrajit invokes the Yamraj's weapon, and Lakshman invokes Kuber's weapon. So all this happens. Then Lakshman invokes the Varunastra, and Indrajit invokes the counter for it is Agneastra. So like this, lots and lots of celestial weapons go, and then eventually Lakshman, then he thinks about Lord Ram in his mind. And then he remembers that he had received from Lord Ram, he had received a special arrow which initially belonged to Indra, Lord Indra. So this beautiful arrow was imbued with inconceivable power. So it was made of gold, it had gems studded in it, it was fitted with peacock feathers, and the arrow had round golden joints, it had a large steel tip, and therefore Lakshman placed his bow and drew back the string, and he invoked the divine Aindrastra. Aindra belongs to Indra. And then he prayed within himself. He said, if Ram is always true to his word and fixed in virtue, and if he possesses unrivaled power, then let this arrow end Indrajit's life. And he strikes it, and Indrajit is killed. So that's the end of Indrajit. Now, Ravan cannot believe. He starts crying. He says, first I lost my son Aksh, now I've lost Indrajit. Indrajit, whom no one could have even killed, has been killed now. These people, these Ram and Lakshman, these two brothers are not ordinary, but I'm greater than them. Now Ravan enters the battlefield. He said, now it's time to exhibit my power. So he comes and he approaches in his golden chariot, and he starts showering arrows and killing everyone in sight. But Ram stood like a rock on the battlefield, and he countered Ravan's each and every arrow. So Ram invoked the Rudrastra, which was presided by Lord Shiva, and Ravan then countered it with another celestial weapon. Then Ravan invoked the Rakshas weapon. And as he released it, along with that, strange missiles spread towards Ram. There were heads of lions with open mouths, there were heads of wolves, jackals, donkeys, boars, alligators, venomous snakes. All were rushing towards Ram. And Ravan's mystic weapon produced a frightening sound. And it attacked Ram from all directions. But Ram was not shaken. He moved with great agility. He dodged all the arrows, dropped on one knee, and he took out a blazing golden arrow, the Agneastra, which went and destroyed all these mystical animals which came from the Rakshas weapon. Then Ravan took out a lance, and it was shining, and he threw it, Actually, he was aiming it towards Vibhishan because Ravan was very angry with Vibhishan. But Lakshman came in between and it hit Lakshman in his chest. So, and Lakshman was gravely injured and he fell down. And he said, so Ram went running and he started feeling very, very sad. He saw that Lakshman was grievously hurt and he had tears and he didn't know what to do. Then immediately, who was called? Sugriv called Sushena. And the herb Sanjeeva Karani, which was brought by Hanuman, that mountain, Sanjeeva Karani was given to Lakshman and slowly he returned to consciousness. Then Sushena carefully administered the Vishala Karani and Sandhini, and which together they healed Lakshman's wounds and repaired his bones. And slowly he sat up, looked around, and Ram was overjoyed. Now Ram immediately stood up and he started releasing endless streams of arrows towards Ravan. Now, the Ravan was harassing the monkeys too much. And he started. So now Ram countered Ravan's missiles and they spread through the air and they fought wildly. And as Ram was closing in on Ravan fell back. He was completely covered with Ram's gold plumed shafts, the arrows. But he could not do anything in response. So what did he do? He turned and he ran away. He went back into Lanka. Now the next day, Ravan comes back in his chariot and he starts fighting. Now when Ravan is coming in the chariot to fight, Ram was obviously just standing on the land. So what did he do? He was ready for battle, but Indra was watching. So Indra desired to assist Ram. So he sends his chariot. So he sends it with his charioteer, Mitali. And then the chariot and Mitali comes to Ram and says, and Mitali tells Ram that, hey Raghav, here's Lord Indra's chariot, and here's also his mighty bow. The chariot has a mighty bow, it has infallible weapons, as well as an invincible gold armor. Please use all of these to attain victory over Ravan, and I shall act as your charioteer. So Ram gazed in amazement at this wonderful vehicle, and then he climbs. He first of all, what does he do? He circumambulated. That is, he does pradakshina. He goes around, and then he bows down to it, and he quickly goes. He dons Indra's armor, and then he picks up the bow and celestial arrows, and then he stands, and he looks like the sun in that chariot. And then the battle again begins. Thousands of arrows from Ram, thousands of arrows from Ravan, and they start fighting with celestial weapons. And then after some time, Ravan is stunned because Ram has almost destroyed his chariot. So his charioteer feels that now he has to save his master. So Ravan's charioteer takes him away from the battlefield. Now, when Ravan regains a little consciousness, he is besides himself. He's so angry. He says, why did you take me away? People will think I have run away. Why did you do that? The charioteer said, I'm very sorry. I just wanted to serve you. That's why I did it. So he says, come on, let's go back. Now, when on the battlefield, Ram was also feeling very exhausted because shooting thousands and thousands of arrows, he had become exhausted. And then he saw that Ravan was coming back. Now at this time, Agastya Muni from the sky, he saw Ram and he comes down and he says that, oh hey Ram, I'm going to tell you a secret and a very confidential prayer called the Aditya Hridayam. So this prayer will invoke the powerful spiritual energy from the heart of the sun, and this is the effulgence of Vishnu himself. So with this power, one can overcome any obstacle and destroy to the roots all one's enemies. So Agastya Muni, he instructs Ram on how to recite the prayer, which would summon the combined power of all the devatas, which emanates from the body of Vishnu. And with that power, Ram would be able to quickly overcome Ravan before nightfall. And because when it's night, the Rakshasas' powers double. So now this Aditya Hridayam is chanted even nowadays, and to invoke, it's a very powerful spiritual energy, and it helps you overcome all obstacles. And also, we must remember that after nightfall, Rakshasas or demonic mentality increases. That's why mums or even our grandmoms would always say, come back home before sunset, right? So we have to be careful about this, right? Because we are all devotees, no? We have to be careful. So now Ram climbs the chariot again and he tells Mitali that, take me close to Ravan with care and I shall destroy the chariot. So then he grasps Indra's bow, and then Ram's temper now is rising. He says, now today I have to just quickly finish off Ravan. So then there's a huge combat between Ram and Ravan, and hours, even after fighting for half a day, it's as though no one had an upper hand. Then immediately, what happened? Ram, he tried to cut off Ravan's head. He cut off one, then it came back. He cut off another, then it came back. Then he cut off another, then it came back. And then he immediately it used to just keep growing back. Then Ram sent another weapon, and then like this, he cut down Ravan's head 100 times. Ravan has, you all know, Ravan had 10 heads and 20 arms. So there was also a question that did Ravan really have 10 heads? Yes, he was born with 10 heads. That's why his father named him Dasha Mukha. And now he had a boon that from Lord Brahma, that his heads and arms could never be destroyed. So Vibhishan immediately goes to Ram and says that the demon has a boon from Brahma. His heads and arms can never be destroyed. But in Ravan's heart is the store of the celestial nectar Amrit, which renews the life. So the only way to kill him is to strike in his heart with a celestial divine weapon, and that will dry up the nectar, and then you can kill him. So Ram now considered his next move. He said, now what am I going to do? So then he now remembered the Aditya Hridayam. So he says, okay, I will chant the Aditya Hridayam. Then Mitali, the charioteer, reminded Ram, remember, when you were in the forest, there you met Agastya Rishi and he gave you a special arrow. So you must use that arrow. So Ram said, he accepted Mitali's advice, and then immediately he invoked the special arrow. Now this special arrow, its shaft was made of ether, and Vayu presided over its shaft. And the plumes was presided by Agni Dev. And Surya Dev was installed at the point. And the rod was the universal destruction of time, Kal. So Ram again, he chanted the Aditya Hridaya prayers, and then he invoked Brahmastra. And he drew back the arrow, and he shone so brilliantly that no one could look at him. And he released the weapon, and it flew at Ravan like as though it was lighting up the earth and the sky. And it pierced right through Ravan's heart, and the arrow emerged from Ravan's body soaked in blood, and it entered the earth. And Ravan whirled around and he let out a cry as though it seemed to shake the entire creation. His bow dropped from his hand. He fell from the chariot like a mountain, and he fell dead. And all the Rakshasas ran in every direction. In every direction they ran because Ravan was now dead. There was a dazzling shower of brilliant flowers which fell from the sky, and it covered Ram's chariot. And the Devatas and the Rishis, they praised Ram, and he was standing over there, and the chariot was surrounded by Lakshman, Sugriv, Hanuman, Angad, Jambavan, Vibhishan. Everyone and everybody was rejoicing. And then Mandodari, Ravan's wife, comes out and she cries and she says that I warned you, Ravan, not to kidnap Sita and return her. But this person who's killed you is no ordinary person, he's Vishnu himself. And then saying that, she went. Immediately, Ram asks Vibhishan that he's your brother, you must do the last rites. Vibhishan says, no, I don't want to do it. He's a bad person, I don't want to do it. Ram says, no, after death, no, you should not see any person's sin. After all, he's just a body. The soul lives forever. Only the soul has, only the body has perished. The soul has moved on. So the soul is invincible. The soul is eternal. But the body, everyone who is born has to die. And Ravan was a great warrior and he died in the battlefield. So you must not keep any grudges. You must do his last rites. And Vibhishan did that. Then immediately Ravan, then Vibhishan is installed onto the throne, and Vibhishan sat on the throne and blazed with regal splendor. And the Rakshasas were very joyful to see that Ravan's brother was the ruler now of Lanka, and they brought many, many gifts and offerings. And Vibhishan offered everything to Ram, who accepted it out of love for her, for the Rakshas. Now, with the ceremony complete and everything, Ram tells Hanuman, go quickly to Sita and tell her. So Hanuman quickly goes to Sita and she's sitting over there and she's in a very sorrowful state. And he delivers the good news and he says, your husband has come out victorious and Ravan is dead and Vibhishan is now the ruler. So, hey Mate, don't worry. Now prepare yourself. You have to see your Lord Ram. So Sita was stunned with joy and she could not make any reply and she just was choked with such, her voice was choked with pleasure. And she says that, oh, hey Hanuman, oh, I cannot give you anything in return for giving me such a good news. I don't have gold, silver, nothing. What do I give you? So Hanuman says that, he says, I don't need anything. I have seen Ram emerge victorious and happy. What else do I need? I don't desire anything. So Sita praised Hanuman again and again and again. And she stopped speaking. And then she said that, I'm so happy. Then Hanuman asked her, should I punish all these Rakshasis who've been troubling you for so many days? Shall I punish them? So Sita then thinks and for some time. And then she says, she looks at the Rakshasis and she says that these Rakshasis are simply carrying out the order of Ravan. So you can't blame them. They were just following orders. And furthermore, any suffering I felt surely is the result of my own past misdeeds, for that is the universal law of karma. So a righteous man does not consider the offenses of others against him. At all cost, he must always observe the vow of not returning evil with evil. So a person who is righteous should never take revenge. Must always forgive. That's the sign of a devotee. And she said that with compassion. And hearing this, then Hanuman goes back. And then Ram asks Vibhishan that ask Sita to wear her celestial clothes. Tell her to come out. So Vibhishan personally goes to Sita and says, Sita says, I wish to see Ram immediately. So Vibhishan says that, yes, Ram has called for you. And He immediately arranges a bath and clothing and everything. And then she mounts a golden palanquin, and she's bedecked with celestial jewels, and she comes out. And there are crowds of rakshasas and monkeys waiting to see her, because all the monkeys have come to fight, and now they want to see who is Ram's who is Ram's Sita? How does she look? So everybody is eagerly waiting. Then Vibhishan goes and informs Ram, and then he says that no, you must ask Sita to get down from the palanquin and walk so that everyone gets her darshan. So then Vibhishan says, but she's a woman, she has to, be protected. She should be under a veil. So he says, no, a house, a veil, or a costume is never the protection of a chaste woman. Her character is her shield. So a woman is protected by her character. So then she comes down. Then Sita's overjoyed to see Ram again and again, and her face shone. And Ram's heart was torn. He deeply wanted to show her his love for Sita and take her back at once. But he feared that people will talk, because Sita had been in the house of the Rakshas for almost a year. So, whatever the circumstances may be, her chastity will be questioned. So, looking at Sita, and Sita's face was bathed in tears. And Ram also had tears in his eyes. He says, oh, Sita, I have won you back today. After conquering the enemies, I've killed them. I have avenged the insult against me and my family. And evil Ravana is no more. And then he stopped speaking, because he took a breath, and then he continued and he said that I have wiped away the stain of insult, but you're free to go wherever you want. You can take shelter of any of my brothers or Vibhishan or Sugriv, but I cannot take you back. And Sita is shocked. She starts crying. She says, now I have nothing to do. I don't have any right to live. My husband has deserted me. He is so then he goes to Lakshmana and says, oh prince, please raise a fire for me. This is my only recourse. I have no desire to live. My husband has renounced me in public, so I shall enter the fire. And Lakshmana is so angry. He says, how can you do this? This is, you know who Sita is. How pure she is. How can you do this? Ram just stood firm and he said, no, Sita has to do this. So Sita comes near him, she walks around him in respect, and then she approaches the fire and goes into it. And the moment she walks into it, all the devatas, gandharvas, rishis, siddhas, charanas, everybody, they all gasp in amazement, and then Ram is blinded by tears. And then Brahma says to Ram, how are you allowing this divine lady? She is Ma Lakshmi. How are you allowing her? Do you not recall your identity? Do you not recall who you are and who she is? So Ram looks at Brahma and says, no, I am in a human form. Please remind me. And then Brahma starts reminding and glorifying Ram and tells him that what was the reason he came, he's who he is, Vishnu, and he started, chanting prayers. Now, at that moment, immediately, Agni Dev appears and holds Sita in his arms, and the princess is dressed in a red robe and she shines brightly. She wears a garland of celestial flowers, and she's adorned with brilliant gems, and her dark curly hairs framed her face. She has glowed with transcendental beauty. So remember Chaya Sita? Now Chaya Sita goes back and the real Sita comes back to Ram. So then Agnidev says that he announces to the world that here is your Sita. And he also says that not even once, even though Ravan snatched her without her consent, she's never been unfaithful to you, Ram. She's never even looked at him. She's never even thought of another person. And even though she was kept captive, her heart always remained in your thoughts. And she did not give a single thought to Ravan, despite being tempted and threatened. And please accept her back. So Ram experiences joy, accepts her, and now Ram and Sita, right? Ram and Sita decide that it's time to go back to Ayodhya. So Vibhishan says that please can you stay a little more days? Okay. Now before this, then when all the devatas were there in the sky, along with that, Lord Shiva comes and says that now it's time for you to go back to Ayodhya because Bharat is waiting for you. And your father Dashrath is also here with us. Dashrath looks at Ram and says, my desire is that you become the king of Ayodhya, go back. Then Ram says to Dashrath that I beg that you please forgive Kaikeyi and Bharat. So Dashrath says, okay, done. Then Indradev is there. Indradev says that when a devata comes, I have to give benedictions. So ask me whatever you wish. So then Ram says that see, there are so many Rakshasas and monkeys who died and who were all in front of me. So they got my darshan and they were liberated. But there were so many monkeys behind me who died. I did not even see them or glance at them, or they could not even see me. So I want you to make them all alive. Indra says, but that's not possible. Ram says, look, you have to do it. You asked me, this is what I want. She says, okay. And then he sprinkles Amrit on all those monkeys who had died, and all the monkeys who had died became alive again. So they were all very joyous. And now it was time to go back to Ayodhya. So Vibhishan says, please take the Pushpak Viman and you go. Then Ram tells Sugriv, you also come with all your monkeys for my to Ayodhya. And then he tells Vibhishan also, you also come with your Rakshasas. So they all board Pushpak. So while they're flying back, Ram tells Sita, see, this is the place from where Hanuman jumped and leapt to Lanka and found you. Then he says, okay, look, see, this is the place, this is Kishkinda where all the monkeys live. Then he stops at Kishkinda and he tells Sugriv that call your wife and call all the Vanar's wives, let them also accompany. And they fly all the way back. Then on the way back, they stop at Rishi Bharadwaj ashram. And once he's over there, he asks Rishi Bharadwaj that please can you make the entire area so fertile that all the trees have fruits and flowers and there's grain everywhere so that all those people who come are happy. And Bharadwaj Muni, which is with his mystic power, makes this happen. Then Ram tells Hanuman, go ahead and tell Bharat that we are on our way. And also see his reaction. If even a little bit he feels sad that I'm coming back, then I will not go. I will give the kingdom to him. So Hanuman goes and he quickly says that, Ram and Lakshmana are coming. And Bharat is so happy. And then he calls Shatrughan, and all the three mothers also come to to where Bharat is. And then when the Pushpak Viman descends on earth, Ram dismounts it along with Lakshmana and Sita. Bharat runs to them with Shatrughan. The four brothers embrace each other. And then they see the mothers, they go and touch their feet. So Ram goes to Kaushalya, to Sumitra, and to Kaikeyi. Lakshman also follows his brother Ram. Sita also does that. Then immediately Vashishta Muni comes and says that the next day itself we have to coronate you. And there's a huge procession. They are all dressed up and they return to Ayodhya. That is when we all still celebrate it as Diwali, Deepavali. The entire universe seemed decorated when Ram returns. A huge crowd of citizens, and they were enjoying, they were playing musical instruments. And then the next day, they all dressed in wonderful, wonderful attire. And Vashishta Muni, he installs Ram onto the throne. And Ram and Sita, they become king and queen. And the crown is given to Lord Ram. The crown was created by Brahma himself, and it was first worn by Manu. And this wearing this golden crown, Ram looked radiant. And then Vayu comes in person and presents Ram an unfading garland of 100 celestial lotuses. And then Indradev comes and he gives Ram a priceless necklace made of pearls, and it's interspersed with heavenly jewels of every variety. So Ram takes the necklace from Indradev and gives it to Sita. And Sita immediately, she lifts it with her two beautiful hands, and she quickly glances at Hanuman. And understanding her desire, Hanuman kneels down in front of the queen, and she places the necklace around Hanuman's neck. And he rises up like a celestial ornament on his chest. And he appears like a dark thundercloud. And the Gandharvas sing and the Apsaras dance. And everybody is happy. And Ram turned to Sita and smiled because his purpose was fulfilled. What was the purpose? The purpose of Lord coming down in a human form was to annihilate the Rakshasas. Ravan and Kumbhakaran were creating too much havoc. That was the purpose. The Lord came down and his purpose was fulfilled. And now that's the end of Yuddhakand. So that was really nice, isn't it? I went a little above time. I'm sorry for that. So I have unshared my screen, Abha. So Advika and Shreya. So now I'm not sharing any screen. So now the next class, we will see what happened. So Valmiki wrote Ramayana till this point where Ram is ruling. Now we have to go back and see how, remember the whole Ramayana was narrated to Ram by Love and Kush. Now we are back in Ayodhya. So next class, we will see what happens after Ram and Sita come back to Ayodhya. Okay, so now I'm going to hand over to Preeti Mataji, and she's going to tell you a wonderful story. And again, this is a story which is, the setting is in Trikuta mountain. Yes, we just heard that Hanuman jumped from Trikuta mountain. So we're going to hear another story about Trikuta mountain. All right, so I'll hand over. Sorry, Preeti Mataji, I think I took a little extra time. Sorry about that.
It was so beautiful. Like we were all immersed in youth.
Actually, we should all, now since Ram has killed Ravan, we should all unmute and say, Jai Shri Ram. Come on, everyone.
Jai Shri Ram. Jai Shri Ram.
Jai Shri Ram.
Yeah.
Jai Shri Ram.
Everyone.
Jai Shri Ram.
Yeah, I saw someone asking about Kahoot, but we're already a little ahead. We're late, behind time for Kahoot. So let's listen to Gajendra's story, and then afterwards, if we have time, we'll have Kahoot. I have the Kahoot ready. If we have time, we'll do it. All right? Okay, I hand over to Preeti Mataji.
Hare Krishna, everyone. That was a beautiful story of the Yuddhakand, right? And we are so happy, we are so fortunate to hear this beautiful story of the narration of the Yuddhakand. Was so beautiful. Thank you, Supriya Mataji. So today we are going to see about the Katha of Gajendra. So in the last few classes of all the Srimad Bhagavatam, we have seen that the essence of all the kathas was surrender to the Lord. We saw how different personalities were such great exalted devotees, and how were they pure devotees? Because they have surrendered to the Lord. So each and every katha of the Srimad Bhagavatam emphasizes on surrender. So today we will see how Gajendra the elephant also surrenders to the Lord and becomes a pure devotee of the Lord. So the story starts with the previous life of Gajendra. So Gajendra was previously King Indradumna, and King Indradumna was a great devotee of Lord Vishnu. And after he had retired from his family life, he meditated upon the Lord, and he was in silence. So one day, the Agastya Rishi, we had heard about Agastya Muni who had given the Aditya Hridaya to Lord Ram, right? So Agastya Rishi and his disciples now visited the ashrama of King Indradumna. And at this point of time, the king was in deep meditation and he did not receive the Rishi properly. So thus the Rishi became very angry and he cursed the king to become a dull elephant in his next birth. So, in accordance with this curse, the king was born as an elephant and he forgot all his previous activities in devotional service. So, we see that when the king Indradumna was having the human body, he was doing all his service to the Lord so beautifully. But when he got the animal body, that of King Gajendra, that is the elephant body, he forgot about all his duties. And so we know that all living beings have a body and a soul, and we all look for ahara nidra bhaya maithunamcha, which is eating, sleeping, defending, and mating. This is common for all living beings. So, what is the main difference between us as well as the humans as well as the animals? Is that apart from our physical form, is that we have the power of realization, the power of understanding the scriptures and applying it, right? So now animals, if you take, if it is Ekadasi, we as humans, we know it is very dear to the Lord as per the scriptures, and we try and follow the fasting, and we also chant during these days. But whereas the animals, if you tell them if they are hungry, they don't think if it's Ekadesi that they have to fast on grains. No, they just go and hunt animals and eat. So they don't have the consciousness that we humans have. So we should therefore take advantage of this human form, and we need to perform a devotional service to the Lord properly every day. So that is our learning from here. So now let's continue and see how in this katha the king of elephants, although he is in an elephant body, Gajendra, by the mercy of the Lord, remembers the Lord. So now the king of elephants, Gajendra, lived with his entire herd in a place, in a jungle close to the Trikuta mountains. So the Trikuta mountains, as explained in the Ramayana, it's such a beautiful mountain. It's got the wonderful trees and lakes there. Yeah, and all the animals in the jungle, they loved Gajendra because he was very kind to the smaller animals and protected them from the predators like lions and the tigers. The lions and tigers feared him because Gajendra was so strong. And one day, Gajendra decides to go on a vacation with his family, along with his young elephants, female elephants, and the entire herd. They decide to go to the Trikuta mountains. So the lake in the Trikuta mountain is said to be crystal clear with perfect temperature, and it tasted, water in the lake tasted like nectar, and they had some beautiful golden lotus flowers there. So the king, along with his herd, enter the lake and they quench their thirst. And now the king wanted to show his affection to his family, right? He thinks, I am the elephant and I need to show my affection to all my family, my relatives. So what does he do? He takes the water from the lake with the aid of his trunk and he starts spraying at all his that is his friends, his female elephants and his baby elephants, and they were all having such a merry time. And suddenly, what happened? The king of Gajendra feels an acute pain in his leg. So when he looks down, what does he see? He sees a ferocious and an angry crocodile that had snapped his leg with its sharp teeth, and he couldn't bear the pain, and he was trying to trying to kick the crocodile away so that it goes away. But the crocodile was very strong. We know that like crocodiles, we all have troubles in life. So the troubles in life are constant. It keeps changing because the world keeps changing, and with time, we see a lot of we have different troubles in life. Like this year, this time last year, we did not have the coronavirus, but this year the entire world is suffering from coronavirus. So that's because of the distress that this world, which is mentioned in the scriptures as dukkalyam ashashvatam, meaning it's full of miseries and it is temporary. So now Gajendra was trying to push the crocodile away. He was seeking help from his relatives, his wives. That is, the female elephants were all crying. They were all trying to pull Gajendra out of the water. But the crocodile, which by nature is a semi-aquatic reptile, so its natural habitat is the water. So it was getting all the nourishment from the lake, and it was growing stronger and stronger. While Gajendra, who was the king of all the elephants, he was strong on land, but he was very weak in water, and he wasn't having any nourishment, and he was becoming very, very weak. And during this circumstance of being helpless, and by the grace of God, what happens? Gajendra, although in an animal body, remembers the prayers and the stotra that he used to chant in his previous life, and he decides to take the shelter of the Supreme Lord. So we learn here that to enable one to achieve perfection, Lord Krishna gives one the chance to remember the Lord again. It is proved here that although Gajendra was put in such a difficult situation, but this was a chance for Gajendra to remember the Lord. So, therefore, we understand from here that we might think a situation is bad for us or it's not suitable for us, but it might turn out to be something far better than we expected. So, we should never crib about any situation. Rather, we need to accept the situation as Krishna's mercy. So now Gajendra started offering beautiful prayers to the Lord. And as it's told in the Bhagavad Gita, Krishna says the divine energy of mind, Maya, consists of the three modes of material nature, which is very difficult to overcome. But if one surrenders unto me, he can easily cross beyond it. Gajendra remembered and realized this, and although he was in acute pain, he still expressed through his prayers that he's now completely dependent on the Supreme Lord. Although he was so strong, he couldn't help himself. Neither his friends or family could help him because they were trying so hard, but it was of no use. And even he was so powerful and he was so influential, but none of that came of any use to him when he was in this difficult situation. Therefore, he surrenders to the Lord. And what happens? The Lord, out of his costless mercy, the Lord descends on the Garuda to save his devotee. Then the Lord, out of his costless mercy, sends the Sudarshan Chakra, which beheaded the crocodile and thus saving Gajendra. So when Gajendra saw the Lord, immediately he took, although he was in pain, he took a flower, a lotus flower with his trunk and offered it to the Lord. So similarly, although we are going through different situations in our life, we should always remember the Lord and offer our prayers, a flower, fruit, or the food, anything that which is sattvic food, we should offer to the Lord with great love and devotion. Then now, what happens is the crocodile was also in great pain. And what happened was that when the Sudarshan Chakra beheaded him, the crocodile came out and he was given the Gandharva form. So the crocodile in his previous life was a Gandharva. And he was cursed by the Devala Muni to become a crocodile. And now, obtaining the Gandharva, beautiful Gandharva form, he returned to the spiritual world because he was touched by the Sudarshan Chakra of the Lord. So he was liberated. And at the same time, Gajendra, the king of the elephants, was touched directly by the hands of the Lord. And he was immediately freed of all material ignorance and bondage. Now, Gajendra, although he was free of this situation, all he wanted to do was to serve the Supreme Lord. And for this, the Lord directly blessed Gajendra with the status of Sarupya Mukti, which is Sarupya Mukti means liberation by obtaining a similar spiritual body as the Lord himself. And Gajendra returned to the spiritual world. So the story of Gajendra is the story of hope and surrender to the Lord, even in the darkest times of our life. So what have we learned? We have learned that from this story, we see how we surrender to the Lord and why we surrender. So, the how is that we perform devotional activities like chanting, hearing about the Lord. Yes, and why do we surrender? Because we all have the spiritual goal of attaining, we want to attain the supreme abode, which is Goloka. Yes, so we need to have this in mind and perform our devotional service every day. And now, remembering the Lord during difficult situation, what happens is when we are in a difficult situation, we totally forget we about anything else apart from that problem. We want to get over with it. So at that point of time, we should immediately take the shelter of the Lord, because once we take the shelter of the Lord, even the bad situation will end up being something good for us. Yes, so we should always remember the Lord. Now, the power of prayers and taking shelter of the Lord. This we have seen in every story, every katha of Srimad Bhagavatam. We have seen what the power of prayers can do, right? So, in any situation, it will the situation might shrink our consciousness to a level to the problem, and this will help us to remember the Lord. So that is the power of the prayer. So when we offer prayers to the Lord, immediately the Lord comes and gives us his shelter. This is also said in the Bhagavad Gita that Krishna says, abandon all varieties of religion and just surrender unto me. I shall deliver you from all sinful reactions. So do not fear. So therefore, we must be fearless and just surrender to the Lord in any situation that we are in. And now, what is our approach to surrender? Is it that, okay, since we have surrendered to Krishna, we don't need to do anything? No. Now, if it's the case of a situation arises, there are different situations that arise in our life, and there are few situations that we have control over. We are responsible, like how Arjuna surrendered. How did Arjuna surrender to the Lord? He didn't just leave everything to Krishna. He took his bow and fought with Krishna in his heart. So that is how we need to fight our situations too. We need to fight our battle with Krishna in our mind. So suppose you're having an exam coming up, and you don't say that, okay, I've surrendered to Krishna, he's going to take care. Of course, he's going to take care, but we need to also do our duties properly first. So we need to surrender like Arjuna, perform our duties, and then surrender to the Lord. And there might be situations where we do not have the control over, and only Krishna can control the situation. Like the coronavirus, the spread of the coronavirus, we don't have any control over it. So we have to surrender to the Lord. How do we surrender? Like Draupadi. How did Draupadi surrender when she was when they were trying to disrobe her? She put her hands up high, and she prayed to the Lord that she's completely dependent on the Lord. So that is the mood that we should surrender when we do not have control over any situation. We should completely be dependent on the Lord. So these are few examples that we should try and apply in our day-to-day lives. Yeah. And then finally, we should practice our spirituality and take small steps, just like how Sujata Mataji had mentioned in the previous class. Our small baby steps we should take to progress in our spirituality, because this will give us the remembrance of the Lord always. So just like how we cultivate crops in a field, similarly, we should cultivate the seed of bhakti in our heart. So how it's always the cultivation of bhakti is compared to the cultivation of crops. So as we sow the seed in the field, similarly, all of us have already sown the seed of devotion in our heart. And as the seed or the plant requires sunlight and water, similarly, our seed of devotion also requires sunlight and water in the form of Shravanam and Kirtanam. We should always chant, and we should chant, as well as we should hear the glories of the Lord. And next is that as we are pouring this Shravanam and Kirtanam, that is, we are pouring the sunlight and water, the seeds also require to remove the weeds in the field, because the weeds, it causes the seeds to lack in nourishment. So these weeds also are, it causes our devotion to come down. So we should try and remove all the weeds that we have on our hearts. And by this process, our hearts become soft and white like butter. And now Janmashtami is coming up, right? So who likes butter very much? It's Lord Krishna. So when he sees that our heart is like soft and white like butter, he comes and steals it. So by this form, we can also be surrendered to the Lord. He will bless us and he'll come and steal our hearts. Yes. So please, all of you, please continue chanting, and please do your devotional service every day so that your hearts become as pure as white as butter, and Krishna might come and steal it. Yes. Thank you so much. Hare Krishna. We will now learn the shlokas, which is so beautiful. And I think Supriya Mataji will take it from here.
Thank you, Preeti Mataji. That was so beautiful. The power of prayer is really so strong that the Lord listens. And also, by your attitude, when your heart becomes as soft as butter, who comes to steal it? It's Krishna. That's why his name is Hari, because he steals. He not only steals away all our miseries, he not only steals away all our sins, but he steals our heart. Yes? And what's he waiting for? He's waiting for our hearts to become soft as butter. Thank you so much, Preeti Mataji. Just right time. We've got this wonderful teachings so that before Janmashtami, we work to make our hearts softer. And now we learn what is the power of prayers. Gajendra Moksham, the name of these prayers, was chanted by Gajendra, and the Lord came himself. He came. He didn't wait for Garud. He didn't wait to mount on his carrier. He said, I'm going. Garud says, no, Prabhu, I'm there. Sit on me. And he says, okay, I'll sit on you. But he was flying faster than Garud. So when you call him with full heart full of love, with your prayers, the Lord will come for you also. So there's no difference between any of these devotees like Gajendra or Dhruva Maharaj or Prahlad Maharaj. We can also become like them. So I'll share the screen and we'll chant this shloka together. So the name of the shloka, name of these prayers are called Gajendra's prayers. Yes, so we're going to chant 2, 3, and 4. And Shaurya will repeat after me. Shri Gajendra Vacha.
Shri Gajendra Vacha.
Om Namo Bhagavate Tasmai.
Om Namo Bhagavate Tasmai.
Yata Etachidatmakam.
Yate Tachidatmakam.
Purushaya Dibijaya.
Purushaya Vibhishan.
Pareshaya Bhidhimahi.
Pareshaya Vidhimahi.
Om Namo Bhagavate Tasmai Yata Etachidatmakam.
Om Namo Bhagavate Tasmai Yata Etachidatmakam.
Purushaya Dibijaya Pareshaya Bhidhimahi.
Purushaya Vibhishan. Pareshaya Vidhimahi.
The king of elephants Gajendra said, I offer my respectful obeisances unto the Supreme Person, Vasudev, Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Because of him, this material body acts due to the presence of spirit, and he is therefore the root cause of everyone. He is worshipable for such exalted persons as Brahma and Shiva, and he has entered the heart of every living being. Let me meditate upon him. Yasminnidam yataschedam.
Yasminidam yataschedam.
Yenedam yaidam swayam.
Yenedam yaidam swayam.
Yosmat parasmat cha paras.
Yosmat parasmat cha paras.
Tam prapadye swayambhuvam.
Tam prapadye swayambhuvam.
Yasminnidam yataschedam. Yenedam yaidam swayam.
Yasminidam yataschedam. Yenidam jedam swayam.
Yosmat parasmat cha paras. Tam prapadye swayambhuvam.
Yosmat parasmat cha paras. Tam prapadye swayambhuvam.
The Supreme Godhead is the supreme platform on which everything rests, the ingredient by which everything has been produced, and the person who has created and is the only cause of this cosmic manifestation. Nonetheless, he is different from the cause and the result. I surrender unto him, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, who is self sufficient in everything. यस्वात्मनीदं निजमाययार्पितं
Yaswatmanidam nijamayarpitam.
क्वचिद् विभातं क्वच तत्तिरोहितम्
Kvachit vivatam kvachitatirohitam.
अविद्धदृक्साक्षि उभयं तदीक्षते
Avitadriksakshi ubhayam tadikshate.
स आत्ममूलोऽवतु मां परात् परः
Sa atmamulo vatumam parat paraha.
यस्वात्मनीदं निजमाययार्पितं क्वचिद् विभातं क्वच तत्तिरोहितम्
Yaswatmanidam nijamayarpitam. Kvachit vibhatam kvachitatirohitam.
अविद्धदृक्साक्षि उभयं तदीक्षते स आत्ममूलोऽवतु मां परात् परः
Avidadriksakshi ubhayam tadikshate. Sa atmamulo vatumam parat paraha.
The Supreme Personality of Godhead, by expanding his own energy, keeps this cosmic manifestation visible and again sometimes renders it invisible. He is there both the supreme cause and the supreme result, the observer and the witness in all circumstances. Thus, he is transcendental to everything. May that Supreme Personality of Godhead give me protection. So, whenever you need protection, you have any fear, all you have to do is say a prayer. Yes? And the Lord listens to you. Thank you so much, Preeti Mataji. That was so many learnings we had from this story, and also how even we saw in Ramayana how everybody surrendered to Lord Ram, right? Lakshman also, before killing Indrajit, thought of Ram. Hanuman, before he did anything, surrendered to Ram, took his name. A prayer takes you a long way. Okay, we have time for Kahoot. Do you want to play or not?
Kahoot.
Kahoot, all right. Okay, let me just set it up then. Remember, next Saturday is going to be special Kahoot. You have to play with your parents. So remind them to join. And also, we'll be giving out certificates, but only to those who are present. Those who do not attend next Saturday's class will not get the conclusion certificate. Okay, I'm sharing the pin now. 540404. 540404. Anyone still joining or should we start?
Mataji, I'm still joining.
Okay. Anyone else still joining? Or should I start?
Mataji, 1 minute.
Okay. Yes, done? All done?
Yes, I think we can start.
Okay. So shall I start? Or not? What did you say, Preeti Mataji? Should I start?
Yeah, we can start, I think.
Okay, we'll start. All right, get ready. Who injured Ram and Lakshman? Wow, that's quite a big number. Indrajit, right answer. Excellent. Shruti, Riandia, Madhav, Aniket, Manvik, Aniket, new person on this. Who advised Hanuman to get the herbs from the Himalayas? Jamvan, right answer. Vibhishan did not know about this. Remember, he went to Jamvan and then Jamvan asked Vibhishan, where's Hanuman? Jamvan advised Hanuman. Yes, well done. Why couldn't Hanuman find the herbs? Correct. The herbs hid from him. Well done. Wow, Bharat, you come up. Great. True or false? Only Lakshman could kill Indrajit. True or false? True. Only Lakshman, remember, a person who did not sleep for 14 years and was a celibate, only he could kill Indrajit. Bharat has gone up. Manvik also is on fire. Super. What mantra did Agastya Muni give Ram? Yes, the Aditya Hridayam. Oh, well done. We're maintaining. What did Lord Indra gift to Lord Ram? This is during the battle. his chariot. Yes. Wow, Ria and Dia, you've slowly come up right on top. Manvik is just 6 points behind you. Ravan could only be killed when shot at the heart. Well done. Oopsies, Ria Dia, what happened? But Manvik is up, Bharat is back, Sanvi and Yash have joined. True or false? Sugriv gave the good news to Sita. True or false? False. Hanuman gave. Ram, Sita and everyone returned to Ayodhya on the Pushpak Viman. Right answer. True or false? Bharat was not happy to see Ram back. False. He was very happy. Manvik is still on top. Bharat, Sia, Sanvi, Yash. Who stole the 100th horse from Prithu Maharaj? Indradev, yes. And last, Manvik, Sia, Sanvi, Josh, Yash. Okay, last. Prithu and Archie appeared from 2 arms of the dead body of King Veena. True or false? True. Okay, let's see. Third place, Sanvi. Well done. Second, Sia. Well done. And on first, Manvik and Mansi. Well done, Manvik and Mansi. Runners up Josh and Yash. Excellent. I think you all can switch on your cameras and let us all say, and you can say Hare Krishna to everyone. Oh, Joshit.
Hare Krishna Mataji.
Say Hare Krishna. Congratulations, Joshit.
Hare Krishna Mataji.
Hare Krishna. Congratulations, Sanvi. Who else?
Krishna Mataji.
Sia. Congratulations, Sia. Best Mate.
Thank you,
Best
Mataji.
Mate. Congratulations.
Thank you.
Well done. Well done. Okay. So,
Thank you.
thank you. A reminder to everyone to send in your homeworks. Reminder to everyone that next Saturday, all of you have to come with your parents to get your Ramayana participating certificates. If you're absent on next Saturday, you won't get it. So you have to be present. And mom and dad have to play with you, or maybe mom or dad, at least one parent, if not both. If both are there on Saturday, then both can play with you.
Auntie, I have a question.
So